His morning started that day like every morning started, before the sun came up. He didn't mind it very much. He had gotten accustomed to the dark. It's the only thing he had ever known. And by this point, his life never really changed. After a good morning stretch, he sits up in bed, swings his legs over the edge, plants his feet firmly on the ground, and stands up. 2 feet forward, about face, make the bed. From his bed, his dresser is 5 steps forward. The door is 3 steps forward, 4 to the left. Outside of his hallway, his bathroom is 5 steps forward, 2 to the left. The kitchen is 10 steps forward, and his front door is 8 steps forward, 3 to the right. Nothing ever changed. After he got himself ready for the day, rather than the customary inventory check of phone, wallet, keys, it was stick, sign, bowl. Outside of his front door, the street was 12 steps forward. From the street, he could go to the left to the residential areas, or he could go to the right, which was the city center, downtown, the outdoor market. He steps into the street, turns right, and walks the 31 and a half steps to the corner of the block. 31 and a half steps. He'd walked them day after day after day. He had counted them and memorized them. For 31 and a half steps, he tries to avoid all the cracks and the potholes. He tries to avoid the curb. For 31 and a half steps, he makes his way, weaving through the early morning go-getters and the early morning joggers. He hears familiar voices on his 31 and a half steps. After 31 and a half steps, he reaches the corner. He makes sure that it's clear. He puts his stick on the ground. He sits down. He puts the bowl in front of him, and he holds his sign. Blind since birth. Don't know why. Everything helps. Every day was the same. Nothing really changed for him. As he sat there, he started to hear more of the hustle and bustle. Everyone waking up and entering the streets on the one day of a week where everyone was off. People going their way to the church, to the synagogue, to the temple. People going to the outdoor market. He listened to those voices that he was all too familiar with. He knew the couple's names. He knew the family's names. He could hear the parents reaming out the kid. Billy was always in trouble. Nothing ever changed. And even though he couldn't see them, he noticed them. Even though they could see him, but never noticed him. All of a sudden, he heard a crowd coming to the right. He could hear voices that weren't quite as familiar to him. They were discussing deep things, life things, philosophical things. He wasn't as interested. But in the midst of hearing these voices that were unfamiliar to him, he had that feeling. You know that feeling. It's that sense, that feeling that someone is looking at me. He couldn't quite really explain it, but it was that feeling that someone was staring right at him. Of course, people looked at him all the time, but they didn't give him reverence. They didn't really acknowledge him. This felt different. It felt like he was being watched. He was being seen. So as he sat there feeling this tension that someone is staring at him, he hears the question he's heard 100 times, the question that has plagued his entire life from the day that he was born. Teacher, look at that guy. What did he do wrong? What did he do wrong? He must have done something wrong. What did he do wrong? Every time he heard it, you would think that he was used to it by now, but every time he heard it, it just stabbed a little bit deeper, this echoing why question. Why every day does he have to memorize the steps in his house? Why every day does he have to memorize the steps to his corner? Why every day is he limited to the occupation of sitting in front of a bowl? Why every day was this his lot in life? He's used to the question. But then he heard a voice a voice he wasn't familiar with, but it seemed to be coming from that same direction as the gaze that he couldn't avoid. That tension was now broken by a voice. His days and life never changed. But that day, everything was about to change. Good morning, y'all. My name is Jon Reiner. I'm one of the pastors here, and I like stories. If you are new, just joining us, please make sure that you stop by our first free welcome desk in the gymnasium. Ask any question that you have about who we are, what we do, how you can get involved. And if you are kind of a seasoned attender, I know exactly what you're thinking. He spoke last time. That's true, I did. I spoke last week, John chapter 8. And I know the next thing that you're thinking, the answer is no, I'm not speaking next week. Shane will be back. Don't worry about it. He probably won't tell any stories. It's fine. Yeah, it's fine. We've been going through a series in the book of John. And before we jump into John chapter 9, I'm going to ask you to do something. We're going to be talking about the idea of being seen a little bit today. And so sometimes it's good to remind ourselves of what it's like to recognize another human being. And so I want you to take a minute, just stand up, say hello to someone next to you, shake a hand, greet them. I know, it's your favorite part of when I'm speaking. You. I know, it's your favorite part. It's weird though, isn't it? Jesus had this way of doing something in his life. If you read through the 4 books about Jesus' life, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, he had this weird way of doing something where he would take something that was happening in the physical, in the natural, in the human life, and he would use it to teach some spiritual lesson. He would do it with his teachings all the time. He would teach about a farmer in a field, and somehow the real point was the significance of what do I do with the Word of God and how does it take root in my life? He takes something physical, natural, and he gives it a spiritual significance. He would do it with his miracles. He fed thousands of people off of a few pieces of bread and fish. But the spiritual lesson was that we needed to be as dependent on him as we are on food. You take something physical and give it a spiritual significance. In John chapter 9, the whole chapter revolves around a story. It's a story about how Jesus interacts with and meets someone right where they are in the midst of their need. And all the questions and all the observations and everything that unfolds from this one person meeting Jesus. And so I don't know where you are today. It's hard for any of us, right, or probably impossible for any of us who are up on the stage to know exactly where you are, or what you're going through, or what you've been going through, or what you have gone through in the past that now kind of echoes into your life today. We don't know. But as I was looking at this text, there was this impression in my heart of two groups of people that I really want to talk to today. I mean, I'll talk to all of you. You don't have to leave if you don't fall in one of these categories. But kind of these two emphases. The first group, life has hit you. Sometimes it seems like life keeps hitting you over and over and over and over again. Like you're always just trying to catch your breath. And you're doing your best to live this life of faith while in reality, the life around you doesn't seem to be going the same way that your spiritual life, everything seems to be falling apart. And there's this aching question in your heart. God, do you even see me? Do you even see this? Do you even get it? I think the Lord wants to speak to that today. The second group that I really want to speak to this morning through John chapter 9 is those of us who we know our life used to look a certain way, and now it looks different. And the only explanation we can give is that somewhere in the middle we met Jesus. And yet, our society or our culture or academics or whoever it is pokes holes and pokes holes and pokes holes to the point where we become really discouraged in our life of faith of, did anything really happen? Did any of this really matter? Is this Jesus thing really real? Even in the midst of this testimony that we can't deny, there's still this thing of like, did that really happen? And I think the Lord wants to meet you as well. As we go through John chapter 9, there's a question that we're going to get hit with right away. And it's the question I think every human being asks when we go through difficult situations. And yet it might be the most frustrating and question that we'll never get the answer to. The question is why? You don't have to raise your hand, but how many of you have ever asked the question why when you were going through a hard time, difficult time? Yeah, I didn't even ask you. Some of you are still raising your hands. Why? Why is this happening? Why did this happen? Why am I going through this? What I want us to see is what happens when we're no longer stuck in the why of the situations in our lives, and instead, by the grace of God, we move into the what will I do now? We can spend months and years of our lives stuck in the why. Why did this happen? Why is this happening? What did I do? What did they do? Why? And never actually move forward into the what am I going to do now in my life? If I never have an answer to the why, what will I do now? So if your Bibles, go to John chapter 9. I'm going to pray and then we're going to get started. God, I thank you for who you are. I thank you for your word. I thank you for this story. And God, I just ask that wherever we might be, as we're sitting in this auditorium, as we're watching this online, if we watch it later on online, God, wherever we might be, that you would make it known, that promise of the Old Testament that you've never left us and you've never forsaken us. For some of us who just need to hear that, even if it doesn't answer all the questions, that we just hear we're not alone, that you see us. God, would you meet people where they are? And God, would you give a sense of just courage again and strength again in our faith, as simple as our testimony might be, that you would allow that simple testimony to sustain us through difficult seasons, that no one can take that testimony away from us. I was one way, and now I'm something else, and the only thing in between was you. You speak through this message, God, in your name. Amen. All right, John chapter 9, we're going to start in verse 1. Jesus, as he went along, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? So Jesus is just going through the town. He's going through the streets. He's got his disciples with him. Every single day seemed like an opportunity for a teaching lesson. And his disciples ask this question, and we'll get to the question. We'll give it its due justice. But they ask this question, Teacher, who sinned? This man who's blind, who's sitting on the corner, what did he do wrong? Or what did his parents do wrong? Who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? And I think immediately, I don't know about you, but immediately out of these first two verses, my mind immediately goes that second verse. That question that seems really rude, that seems confusing, and it can be easy to skip over the first verse. And I want to give the first verse more attention than maybe we normally give it, because the first verse I think is super important, especially for any of us who might be going through a difficult season of our life right now. It says that as they went along, Jesus saw a man blind from birth. The reason it seems that the disciples are even asking this question, who sinned, him or his parents, is because Jesus' attention is no longer on them. His attention isn't on his schedule. His attention is fixated on the man who was blind sitting at the corner. All of a sudden, the gaze and the attention of Jesus is on the person in need. Why does that matter? Because some of us just need to hear that. Some of us just need to be reminded that God truly is concerned and present with us even in the midst of our difficulties. Even in the midst of our hard seasons, even through the things that we're going through that we don't understand, even in the midst of our whys, God still takes the time to stop and notice the person. He still stops and sees the person. It's one thing to just go down a street and you can be aware of other people. It's something different when you see them, isn't it? When you look at them, when you recognize them, when you give them attention. To be seen is so important and valuable. Even for an introvert, it's nice to be seen every once in a while. And then I have to go hide from everybody. But it's nice to be seen every once in a while. It's nice to be known. It's nice to be valued and appreciated. And in that moment, the disciples, it's almost like the disciples are looking at their teacher, they're talking about something else, and like, what are you looking at? What's he looking? Him? Just the blind guy? That's it? You're just staring at the blind guy, huh? Seems weird. Well, as long as you're staring at him, what did he do wrong? That's their question. Jesus, tell us, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? That might seem harsh, but let me tell you this. It's kind of rooted in what would become some Old Testament and rabbinical commentaries of why things happen in our lives. There's a phrase called Deuteronomic theology. Deuteronomic theology it's rooted in the Old Testament. God makes a covenant with the people of Israel, and he gives them a law. He gives them a way of life to follow. Follow this, and the world around you will know that you are mine, that I am your God and you are my people. But what happened over a series of years or centuries is that people's commentary extended it and extended it and extended it to basically say something like this: if you obey God's laws, God will bless you and things will go well in your life. If you disobey God's laws, God will not bless you. He may even curse you and things will not go well in your life. So all you have to do is reverse engineer it and say, are things going really well in my life? If they are, I must be obeying God's will and he's showing his favor to me. If things are not going well in my life, I must have done something wrong and he's mad at me. So what do you do with someone who is not just blind, but blind from birth? The disciples have two options. Either his parents did something. His parents lived a life of sin. His parents did something wrong. His parents had a rap sheet of guilt against themselves. And so because of that, this child is born blind. Because of the sin of his parents, now this child will live forever blind because of something they did. Because how do you look at someone who is blind and not, according to this Deuteronomic theology, come to the conclusion that someone did something wrong? But because you were born blind, you didn't just become blind, you were born blind. Either your parents sinned before you were born, or you were really bad in the womb. Whose sin? Was it this man's sin or his parents that he's born blind? Maybe he just did something really bad in the womb, you know? Maybe he kicked mom one too many times. Maybe he had, dirty thoughts in the womb. Maybe he sailed like a sailor in the womb. Whatever it is, maybe he did something that was so horrendous that he has so much sin in his life that when he was born, he was physically blind. Because this theology tells me, if things aren't going well in my life, someone must have done something. I must have done something wrong. You must have done something wrong. And it sounds so outrageous. But I wonder if any of us have been hit with something like that ourselves. If anyone has ever communicated that message to us, or maybe if we have ever communicated that message to someone else, you're in the situation that you're in because you probably sinned, because you probably did something wrong. That's why this is happening to you. I don't know about you, but if you know my story, this way of thinking was projected on me. If you've already heard it, you're going to hear it again because, well, I have the opportunity to do that. 11 months into Emily and I's first year of marriage, I was diagnosed with cancer. And there was this short, week between being diagnosed with cancer and starting surgery and treatments. And during that little 1 week, week and a half period, I was on staff at this smaller church in the Madison area. I mentioned this before. I was like the second pastor of two pastors, so whatever the other pastor didn't want to do, I did. So I was a worship pastor and the youth pastor, and I would fill in instrumentally wherever I could, if I could, for the worship team and doing Sunday school teaching, all that. And so we had a 2-hour worship night one night, a 2-hour worship night, and I was playing drums as best as I could. I was playing drums for 2 hours. And they had mentioned during that worship night, Pastor Jon recently had this, diagnosis. We're going to spend some time praying for him. And so after the worship night was done, I come out from just like this, a drum cage. And I was a pastor on staff who had just been drumming for 2 hours in worship. And these two sweet individuals came up to me and said, we'd like to pray for you. We heard about, your diagnosis. We'd like to pray for you. And at that point, I'm like, yeah, sure. I'll take whatever prayer I can get. And so these, I'll just say these two beautiful older, women started praying for me. And shortly into their prayer, it sounded like this, dear Lord, we just want to stand with our brother. And we ask that you would reveal to us what door he opened up in his life to allow this to happen to him. And I'm standing there, and I don't want to make a scene, because that would be inappropriate. Punching older women at church would be inappropriate. Your career in ministry goes downhill after that. Word like that spreads. Don't hire him. He's the grandma puncher. So instead, I just stood there. I just stood there. And yeah, there were times where I went through the whys. Why this? Why is this happening? I worked for this special event company where we'd set up all those big, party tents and tables and chairs for a while. And there was a moment, in addition to pastoring, so there's a moment I'm sitting in the middle of this cab. And on my left, the guy who's driving is smoking 10 packs a day. And the guy to my right has got a giant dip in his mouth. And I was like, and I have cancer. This makes sense. In my history, I tried to do everything right. I tried to be healthy. I was an all-American athlete. I tried to do everything to be healthy in all those different areas. And so when I asked the doctor, what did I do? Because I went through the whys. When I said, what did I do? He said, well, you were in the right age or demographic and you pulled the short straw. That's it? That's all you got? That's my why? He goes, yeah, basically. Basically. There was no door? Was there a door and cancer was outside and they were knocking? If I had known that, I guarantee you I wouldn't have opened the door. That's not a door you open. Be like, no, thank you, No one's home. We're not buying here. Not interested. But that was the prayer. Tell us what door you opened up to allow this to happen. I don't know what it was. Maybe I played the drums too loud. Right? Maybe I did too many sick fills. He's a little too rock and roll. Maybe it was the way I was dressed. I don't know. I did something wrong. I don't know about you, but my guess would be that there's some of us who maybe have carried something like that for a while. Why did this happen to you? Why did you experience this loss? Why did you experience this diagnosis? Why did you experience this difficulty in life? Why did you do this? Why did this happen to you? I'll be honest, some of them make sense to me. I'm not trying to be rude, but if I spoke 20 packs a day and later on in my life a doctor said, yeah, there's something wrong with your lungs, I'd be like, yeah, that probably makes sense. I'm not going to shake my fist at God and say, why? Because he might say, you. If I didn't care about myself, I didn't care about any level of exercise, I just let my whole, and then later on the doctor says, you have some heart issues. I'm not going to wave my hand and go, why? Move. There are some things that make more sense to others. If I give no love to my wife, no respect to my wife, if I never see her, acknowledge her, recognize her, if I never do anything to appreciate her, and instead I live on this assumption that I'm entitled to more and I'm entitled to something different. And so all of a sudden I live this secret life of porn or an affair, all while my wife is still sitting there. And then years later it all starts to unfold and my marriage falls apart. I can't shake my hand at the heavens and say, God, why? Because you're an idiot. Some of them make sense. But some of them don't, do they? Sometimes it doesn't make sense. Sometimes that diagnosis, sometimes that loss comes out of nowhere, and I don't know why. Or in this man's case, I'm born blind. And too often, theologically, we say it was because you did something wrong, or your parents did something wrong, or someone sinned, and that's why you're in the situation that you're in. And we carry that for weeks and months and years and decades. My life is the way it is because I did something wrong, or my parents did something wrong, I sinned, and now I just can't make it up to God. It's a long-lasting theological idea. It was around then, it's around now. Here's Jesus' response. I mean, this is an opportunity for Jesus to speak into this theology. This is opportunity to say, well, truth be told, it was his parents' sin. They did X, Y, and Z, and now this is why he's born blind. Here's Jesus' response in verse 3. Neither this man nor his parents sinned, Jesus said. Neither. It doesn't fit into your riddle. It doesn't fit into your model. It doesn't fit into your formula. Neither. Neither this man nor his parents sinned, said Jesus, but this has happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. You've reduced this man who's sitting here, blind since birth. You've reduced him to a sin formula. And you've said that he's in the situation that he's in because he sinned, because he did something wrong. And so now you know his story. You've already jumped to the conclusion of his story. You know why he's in that position. You've reduced him to just an issue of sin, one way or the other, him or his parents. I'm not playing your game, and I'm not answering your riddle. It was neither him nor his parents who sinned, but instead, I am going to use him to bring something beautiful into this world. Neither him nor his parents, but this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. Whatever is about to happen to that blind man is a direct correlation to the work of God, and whoever does it is sent from God. Neither one. Stop asking that. It's the wrong question. You see, I think sometimes we get stuck in the why. Don't get me wrong, I've been there. I'm still there. I still wrestle with the whys of why did this happen in my life, or why am I going through this, or why is this happening? I still do it. I counsel and talk to people about the whys of what's going on with their life. But hear me when I say this with as much grace and kindness as mercy as I can, is that sometimes, chances are actually pretty good, we may never have all the answers to the whys, but we can make the decision to go from the why to the what am I now going to do. The why is this happening to me to the what am I going to do with my life now, rather than spending decades stuck in the why and figuring out the answers and then doing nothing with our lives. Jesus is saying, neither one. I'm not putting him in your formula. Instead, I'm going to use his why and bring about the glory of God in this world through his life. We can read that and think, well, he didn't really answer the question, did he? Because sometimes it'd be nice if we would just know. Even if it's a sin issue, because sometimes we're like, well, I just want to know why this is happening. If it's a sin issue, then just tell me so I can correct it so that this season in my life ends, or so that this difficult thing in my life never happens. If I could just change it so I never go through this, can you just tell me what it is? And if you read the whole trajectory of Scripture, God doesn't always explain why things happen. Anyone ever experienced that? God doesn't always explain why things happen. There's a beautiful example of that in the book of Job. I know some people like Job, some people hate Job because it's frustrating for this very point. If you're unfamiliar with the story of Job, I encourage you this week, go back and read Job. But what you have at the beginning of Job is that God looks down and sees Job, and he's like, man, that's my guy. He would be faithful to me to the end. No matter what happens, he's a good dude. And Satan, who apparently is just walking around heaven, he's like, oh yeah, he only likes you because you do everything for him. If his life was messed up, he wouldn't love you anymore. And for the rest of the book of Job, Job's life falls apart. Just falls apart. His business falls apart. His family falls apart. His property falls apart. His wealth falls apart. By the end, he's just sitting on the ground with shards of clay just scraping boils on his body. And Job has these friends who give the same Deuteronomic explanation over and over. They say, Job, obviously you did something wrong, man. Your life wouldn't look like this if you were doing everything right. You must have done something wrong. And over again, that's the counsel that he gets. You did something wrong. You did something wrong. You did something wrong. That's why your life is in this situation. You must have done something wrong. And over, Job is like, okay, show me what it is. I would love this to end. What is it? Because I can't tell what it is. And then finally he says it to God. God, what did I do? Give me an answer. Give me the why. Why does my life look like this? Why did I go through this? Why is my life going through this? Why did this happen to me? All the whys. He yells out to God, God, why did this happen? And throughout the whole book of Job, God never answers. And then when he does, he doesn't answer. God spends about three chapters talking back to Job without ever explaining the why in his life. That might be frustrating, but I'm going to read some big chunks of God's response to Job, and I hope we make the point from it. In the midst of a season of saying, God, why is this happening? Why? God says this in Job 38. Then the Lord spoke to Job out of the storm. You should already know something's coming. The Lord spoke to Job out of the storm, and he said this, who is this that obscures my plans with words without knowledge? Brace yourself like a man, and I will question you, and you shall answer me. Like if I'm Job, I'm already like, tap out. I don't want to go any further. If the God of creation responds to you and says, oh, who is this that has such great plans for the world? You speak without having any knowledge. And then if the God of creation looks at you and says, brace yourself like a man, I'd be like, oh, I don't want to do that. He's not done yet. That's God's way of saying, buckle up, buttercup, here we go. Says this, brace yourself like a man. I'm going to question you like you've been questioning me. And you're going to give me the answer. Ooh. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Now, tell me if you understand. Who marked off its dimensions? Surely you know. God becomes like the most sarcastic person I've ever met. Who marked off its dimensions? Oh, surely you know. Who stretched a measuring line across it? On what were its footing set? Who laid its cornerstone? While the morning stars sang together and all the angels shouted for joy. Was it you? Was that you or was that me? I can't remember. Who shut up the sea behind doors when it burst forth from the womb? When I made the clouds its garment and wrapped it in thick darkness, when I fixed limits for it and set its doors and bars in place, when I said, see, this is as far as you may come and no further. Here is where your proud waves will halt. Job, tell me, have you ever given orders to the morning? Or shown the dawn its place? That it might take the earth by the edges and shake the wicked and darkness out of it. The earth takes shape like clay under a seal. Its features stand out like those of a garment. The wicked are denied their light and their upraised arm is broken. Have you, Job, journeyed to the springs of the sea or walked in the recesses of the deep? Was that you again? Or me? Have the gates of death been shown to you? Have you seen the gates of the deepest darkness? Have you comprehended the vast expanses of the earth? Pray tell if you know all this. The Bible says that God's kindness leads us to repentance. But this is rough. It's rough, isn't it? But if we remove Job out of it, and maybe I just put my own life into it, I say, God, why? Why? Why did this happen? Why did you let that happen? Why did this happen to this person? Why did that happen to, why this? Why that? Why? The Lord said to Job, will the one who contends with the Almighty correct him? Let him who accuses God answer him. And Job answered the Lord. Okay, I see what you did there. I'm unworthy. How can I reply to you? Better yet, I won't. I'll put my hand over my mouth. I spoke once. I have no answer. Twice, I'm not going to say anything else. That's not enough. God's going to keep going. He keeps going on for like 2 more chapters. Job chapter 40, then the Lord spoke to Job out of the storm. Brace yourself like a man. I will question you and you shall answer me. That's 2 times you have questioned my masculinity, God. Would you discredit my justice? Oh. Would you question whether I'm true or not? Would you question that I know what's good and right? Would you condemn me to justify yourself? Would you tell me, God, that I'm wrong, that I don't know what I'm doing, that the world is out of my control, that I can't handle it, that I don't know what's going on in your life? Will you question my judgment and actually accuse me of being guilty just so that you can have a story that you like? Do you have an arm like God's? And can your voice thunder like his? Then adore yourself with glory and splendor and clothe yourself in honor and majesty. Go ahead, unleash the fury of your wrath. Look at all who are proud and bring them low. Look at all who are proud and humble them. Crush the wicked where they stand, bury them all in the dust together, shroud their faces in the grave. Then I myself, I will admit to you that your own right hand can save you. But unless you can do that, will you question me? Jesus says, neither this man nor his parents sinned. This happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. I know for a lot of us, that's not really comforting. It's not a comforting answer of why we go through heartache and loss and difficulty. When I asked my doctor, why did this? Well, you're the right age demographic and you chose the short straw. It was almost as if the doctor was telling me, I don't know what to tell you, man. It's like you live in a world where there's cancer. I don't know what else to tell you. It's like you live in a world where there's evil. You live in a world where not everything is good. You live in a world where even the best of us get tainted and impacted by a world of sin around us. I don't know what to tell you. And I could get stuck in that why, and I can sit there, and I can get bitter about it, and I can shake my hand at God about it, and I can point my finger at everyone else and blame everyone else about it. I can sit in the why until I have a clear answer, which I may never get. Or in the midst of wrestling through the why, I can make a very dangerous life decision to step into the what am I going to do now? After saying this, Jesus spit on the ground. Jesus did. God in the flesh spit on the ground. It's hard to correct your kids about spitting if Jesus is spitting. He spits on the ground. He makes some mud with the saliva. He takes the dry dirt, spits in it, makes a little mud, and puts it on the man's eyes. Thanks, man. As if I wasn't already having a hard day. You know, I've been sitting at this corner for years, begging for money. I can't do anything else. I just had to sit here and listen to your all conversation about what sin I committed, that I'm blind, and now you spit in the ground, make mud, and throw it on my face? Thanks. Jesus says, go, wash it in the pool called Sent. So the man went and washed and came home seeing. What I like about this actually, but is also frustrating when I try to put myself in the same scenario, is that Jesus doesn't say, I'm going to throw mud on your face, then you're going to wash it off, then you're going to be healed. Instead, Jesus initiates the healing process in the man, and then the man has to go and actually walk it out by going to the pool. Jesus says, here, bam, go wash it off. Why? Why do I have to wash it off? You wash it off. You just threw mud on my face. No. I'm starting your healing process, but you are a part of it. I'm starting your healing process. And you can make a choice to sit here with mud on your face. You can sit here and ask the why is everything bad happening in your life. You can sit here with that mud on your face, or you can start walking out the what am I going to do now and take part in your healing process. That's hard, church. It's hard because some of us would rather just sit here until I know why. I want you to give me an answer. Jesus doesn't give him an answer. He gives him the process of healing instead. Do you hear that? He doesn't give him the why, other than the works of God are about to be displayed in his life. So here's the guy. He's got a decision. Do I go and wash it off? Do I sit here with mud on my face? He goes. It says he goes, he went, he washed, and came home seeing. He'd been blind since birth. I'm guessing not much has changed in his life, but that day, that moment, everything changed. It doesn't even seem like he went through a process of like, okay, my eyes have to adjust to seeing for the first time. It was like mud on the face, wash it off, and as he's washing it off, for the first time, he sees shapes and colors and figures and definition. That dude's changed. He's changed. From that moment, he has changed. His life just changed. The trajectory of his life just changed. So many factors of his life just changed. And you would think the chapter could end there. Everyone's excited. Everyone celebrates. Everyone's so glad that this guy's life just changed. But instead, he gets scrutinized. Verse 8, his neighbors, those who had formerly seen him begging, asked, "Isn't that the same guy you used to sit and beg?" Some claim that it was. Others said, "Nah, man, he only looks like him." Can you imagine, like, small town, you go down the same street every day, you see the same guy begging, blind, on the corner, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Hey, dude, what's up? How's it going? Yeah, you don't have to do this anymore. I can see. How's your mind? Can you imagine seeing someone in your life who has always been a certain way and then seeing them different? You know what I'm saying? Is that something that we can easily take on, or does it take some adjustment? Like, no, that's not the same guy. That's not the same guy. That's Jon Reiner from Madison? As a pastor? Of a church? No, that ain't him. No, that ain't him. No. Is that the same Steve that we used to party with every single weekend? No, that's not him. That can't be him. It's just someone who looks like him. Because those of us who know our past, it might take a while for them to recognize the change in our life. Is that really the dude? No, that's not really him. Okay, others said, no, he only looks like him. But he himself, the blind guy's like, it's me. I am him. I'm the guy. I sat on that corner. I never knew what the corner looked like. That's what it looks like? Cool. It's me. Like, I am the guy. Well, then how were your eyes open, they asked. He replied, well, the man they call Jesus. I don't really even know him. The man, though, that they call Jesus, he like made some mud. He put it on my eyes. He told me to go wash it off. I went, I washed, and then I could see. That's all I know. That's all I know. How are you? Where were you last night? Why were you out with us? What happened to you? I don't know, man. I don't know. Last weekend, some people asked me to come to this church in Alaska. It was weird, but they had coffee, so it's cool. I like went in there and the whole room was dark. They had a bunch of lights. It looked like a show. It was cool. They played music. I didn't know what was going on. They had like drums and like an electric guitar, and that dude had a bunch of tattoos, and then another guy with a bunch of tattoos came out. He wears a lot of Harley Davids. Like, I guess he's a biker. He came out and he was like talking, but it was, like everything he said seemed like it was like hitting me. I never met the guy before. Everything that they were saying was like hitting my heart, whatever that means. I don't know. Like, I was crying. I don't cry. I don't know, man. He said, like, if you want to respond to this, you raise a hand. And I was looking around like, what kind of idiot's going to raise their hand? And then my hand was raised. I didn't know what was going on. These people prayed for me like they seemed to like me. They never met me. I was popping mint after mint after mint after mint. I knew my breath. I don't know, man. I just went to this place. That's all I know. I think I met God. What? That doesn't make sense. That's all I know. That's all I know. He said I could pray, and all of a sudden I just felt different. I felt happy. I felt at peace with me. Like, I don't know what else to say. They respond, where is this guy? He says, I don't know. He did the mud thing on my eyes. I haven't seen him since. So they brought to the Pharisees, the religious leaders, the man who had been blind. Now, the day in which Jesus had made the mud and opened the man's eyes was the Sabbath. Here's the thing. If you've been with us throughout this series, you're starting to get the impression that Jesus doesn't really always follow the Sabbath thing. It was supposed to be a day off from all work, all restriction, all regulations, right? So the Pharisees asked him how he had received his sight. If this is that same Jesus guy, he keeps breaking the Sabbath to heal people, and we're not going to have it. So how did he do this? The guy's like, okay, I keep telling you. He made mud, he put on my eyes, I washed it, and now I can see. Some of the Pharisees said, this man is not from God, for he does not keep the Sabbath. How did he not keep the Sabbath in that moment? Simply put, this. There was a law about not kneading dough on the Sabbath. The word here for dirt could often be translated as dirt, mud, or dough sometimes. So the fact that he took a dry powder, spit in it, and he starts working like this, you just kneaded dough. You just made mud. He put that on the guy's hands, and the Pharisees see him as being guilty of breaking the Sabbath. That's what they notice. Not the guy who was blind, who's standing right in front of them that can see. It's not the change in the man that they're noticing. It's the methods that were broken in order to get him there. Some of the Pharisees said, this man is not from God, for he does not keep the Sabbath. But others said, well, how can a sinner perform such signs? So they were divided. I would say so. Are you really changed? Because it doesn't add up. Tell me that story again. I went to this church in Alaska that had free coffee. Yeah, skip the free coffee. Who cares? I went there. I went into the room. It was really dark. They were playing music. This dude with a guitar was really good. He had a lot of tattoos. He was jacked out of his mind. Incredible voice. They played drums. Yeah, drum. Did they have a choir? No. That's not how we do things. That's not how you do it. That's not the method, right? And then what happened? Well, the guy came out. Was he in a robe? No. Collar? No. Well, what was he wearing? Harley Davidson, Under Armour, a lot of tattoos. Tattoos? Someone with tattoos told you about God? That's not, no. That's not how it works. Yeah, he came out and he's really good. He knew a lot about it. Something was stirring in my heart. I started crying. He said I could raise my hand. I respond, like, that's all I know. That doesn't fit the method. But like, look at me, like, I'm different, but it doesn't fit the method. That's not how it works. That's not how God works. That's not how spirituality works. That's not how faith works. But I get what you're saying. But I'm right here. The blind guy is saying, look, okay, like you might disagree with his methods, but like, I can see. Really? You're missing that one, but I can see. Okay, so again, they turn to the blind man. What do you have to say about him? This is supposed to be like the best day in this guy's life, and it's turning into like an interrogation session. What do you have to say about him? It was your eyes that were opened, after all. The guy says, he's a prophet. It's like the highest prestige title that someone in the Old Testament world could give to someone. He teaches with authority, he does miracles. It seems like it lines up with everything. He's a prophet. And they still not believe. They still didn't believe that he'd been blind. Maybe you were just joking. I know what happened. For the last 30 years, you've been lying. You've been sitting on that corner pretending to be blind. They still didn't believe that he had been blind and received his sight until they sent for his parents. We're going to call your mom and dad into the office. That's all right. Yeah. Now mom and dad are standing there like, how are we in trouble? And they're probably just coming to terms with the fact that their son, who's been blind since birth, can see. And they're probably like, too many questions. How can you can see? Like, and they asked them, is this your son? They asked. Is this the one that you say was born blind? How is it that he can see? You know him better than anyone. You know his past. You know his history. You know everything that was said of him. You know everything that he's done. Is this really your son, and has he really changed? The parents answer, well, we know he's our son. It's a silly question. And we know he was born blind. But as for how he can see, or who opened his eyes, we don't know. Ask him. He's of age. He's legal. He's not a minor. He's an adult. Ask him. He can speak for himself. His parents said this because they were afraid of what the Jewish leaders had already decided, that anyone who acknowledged that Jesus was the Messiah would be kicked out of the synagogue. Church, I want us to sit on this for a second. Here's a dude, nothing in his life ever changed. He still, even by his own confession, doesn't really know much about Jesus. The guy that they call Jesus, he met me where I was. He put mud on my face. I was blind. Now I can see. That's all I know about it. He's still trying to figure out the details, but it's his story. He can't deny it. I mean, he can't deny that he can see. His parents, though, yeah, I know who he is and I know who he was. But how he's different and why he's different, I'm just not there. I don't know. You may have had an incredible experience with the Lord. In some ways, you might be able to relate, not in the physical blindness, but with the idea that this man, I went from being this in my life to being this. And I don't really know all the answers, but I can't deny that in the middle was Jesus. That's all I know. I was this way, now I'm this way. And you might want to tell everyone that. And that's beautiful. And you might want everyone else to experience what you've experienced, and that is beautiful. But don't be discouraged if not everyone does, or everyone does right away. Because it sounds like the parents just aren't there. I don't know. I'm not where he is. I'm kind of like 100 yards back from him. Like, he's experienced something I haven't quite experienced yet. And so I don't really know how to make sense of what happened to him. Yes, I know who he is. Yes, I know what he was. I know what he lived through. I know that he was blind, but how he's healed, I don't quite know. Church, there's a certain level of grace. Your life might be changed and you can't deny that, but other people who have known you may have a hard time accepting it at first. Don't give up. Don't give up on your faith, don't give up on your testimony, and don't give up on extending grace to the ones who just haven't experienced it yet. Don't give up. His parents are saying, yeah, it's him, but we don't really know. Ask him. He's of legal age, because I don't want to get kicked out of church. So a second time, they summoned the man who had been blind. And now they start to almost manipulate him. Give glory to God by telling the truth. we don't believe him. We don't believe that story. We don't believe that church. We don't believe in that preacher. We don't believe in that message. We don't believe in this. We don't believe in that method. So give glory to God that that's not actually what happened. We know that this man is a sinner. So tell us the true story. What really happened? And I love verse 25. I wanted a slide just of 25. I want you to hear his response, read his response, and know that even in your own story, verse 25 is just as solid as anything that you may need to have in your life of faith. He replied this way, whether he is a sinner or not, I don't know. One thing I do know, I was blind, but now I see. That's all I know. I'm still trying to come to terms with this. All I know is that I was blind and now I see. All I know is that I'm changed. I don't know all the fancy words. I don't know all the definitions. I don't know all the right arguments. I don't know how to explain anything. But what I can't deny is that I was blind and now I can see. I was feeling broken and hopeless and desperate and depressed or addicted or beat down or suicidal. I was this way and now I'm this way and I don't know what happened other than he met me in between. That's all I know. And I'll spend the rest of my life trying to figure it out, but I can't deny that I was blind and now I see. Never deny that you were one way and now you're something else, even if people don't understand it. All I know is that I'm changed. And then they asked him, what did he do to you? How did he open your eyes again? Tell us again. Right? Let's see if your story matches up 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. And he answered, I've told you already and you didn't listen. Why do you want to hear it again? Oh, do you want to be his disciples too? No, they don't. No, they don't. If they were not mad at him already, they are mad at him now. I have told you so many times and you don't want to listen. Why do you keep asking? Why do you really want to know? Do you want to follow him too? Do you want to be one of his disciples? He answered them. They hurled insult at him and said, you are this fellow's disciple. We are disciples of Moses. We know the real way. We know the true way. We keep all the rules. We do everything right. We dot all the I's. We cross all the T's. We live by all the laws. We do everything right. Your story doesn't match up because it doesn't fit our mold and it doesn't fit our method. We know that God spoke to Moses, but as for this fellow, we don't even know where he comes from. They're talking to a dude who was just blind for years. Jesus just healed him after hearing and investigating all these other miracles that Jesus had done. They still don't want to recognize anything about Jesus, right? And so over and over again, they keep denying it. And it's almost as if in this story, we have shifted from someone who was physically blind that could physically see to recognizing that there are those who claim to spiritually see but are really spiritually blind. We know that God spoke to Moses, but as for this fellow, we don't even know where he comes from. You don't know where he comes from? He goes, the man answered, now that is remarkable. You don't know where he comes from? You still don't get it? I was the blind guy. I was the one that was blind and now I can see. You're the guys that went to Bible college. You went to seminary. You don't get it? You don't know who he is? I'm supposed to be the blind guy. You're the blind guys. That's remarkable, he says. I just can't. I'm done. I'm dead. I'm dead. I can't. That is remarkable. You don't know where he comes from, yet he opened my eyes. No one else in biblical history had performed the miracle of someone being blind and now seeing. This is the first time. You don't know where he comes from? It seems pretty straightforward, doesn't it? The man continues, we know that God does not listen to sinners. I believe you. He listens to godly persons who do his will. Nobody has ever heard of opening the eyes of a man born blind. If this man were not from God, he could do nothing. The dude who was blind and couldn't physically see, spiritually didn't know who Jesus was, is now growing stronger and stronger in his testimony, not because all of his whys were answered, but because he's becoming rooted in the testimony and the obviousness that God had changed his life. Even in the midst of the know-it-alls, he's like, okay, you're missing something. I may not all know all the fancy words you know, but I went from blind to seeing, spiritually blind to spiritually seeing. You still don't get it. If this man were not from God, he could do nothing. And man, they resort back to the same mudslinging that started the story. You were steeped in sin at birth. How dare you lecture us? And they threw him out. And what do you know? You're just a sinner. Your story doesn't count. And you have a reputation. We know what you're like. We know how you talk. We know how you act. We know what you look at. We know how you think. We know everything we need to know about you. I don't care if you claim to go in that church one day, raise your hand up. Nothing ever happened. You're just as much of a sinner as you were before. There's nothing true about your story. And I threw him out. It should have been the best day of his life. Instead, he was rejected for being changed. You might face that. You might face some rejection from people you love, people you know who just aren't there yet. You might find some rejection from society and culture around you because now all of a sudden you're a what? You're a Christian? That doesn't even make sense. Yeah, I don't know all the answers either. I just know I was this way and now I'm this way. That's all I can tell you. I'm sorry. So now here he is, kicked out of the synagogue, kicked out of the temple. He's by himself. And who comes to meet him? Jesus. Jesus heard that they had thrown him out. When he found him, he said, do you believe in the Son of Man? Do you believe in the Messiah? Do you believe in the Savior of the world? Do you believe in God incarnate? God in the flesh? Do you believe? The guy says, who is he? Who is this Son of Man? Like, who? Tell me so that I can believe in him. I mean, today has just been a day of believing new things. So you tell me who he is. Tell me. And Jesus said, you have now seen him. This chapter starts with him not seeing anything. You've now seen him. You've physically seen him and you've spiritually seen him. You have seen him. In fact, he is the one speaking with you. It's me. What a day. And the man said, Lord, I believe. And he worshiped him. He went from nothing changing in his life to still being the same old person that everyone knew as just being the blind guy in the corner. Physically being changed, spiritually being changed. The only why that was given to him was, it's not your sin or your parents' sin, but today God's going to do some work through your life. He's going to do something beautiful through you. Something beautiful is going to happen from your situation. Something beautiful is going to happen from your suffering. But you have to go from the why to the what will I do now? And Jesus said this in closing, for judgment I have come into this world so that the blind will see and those who see will become blind. Oh, he took this physical thing then and he made a spiritual lesson out of it. He's so good. Mm-hmm. Now, from some Pharisees who were with him heard him say this and asked, what? Are we blind too? Spiritually speaking, we're supposed to be the smartest ones around. We're supposed to have the best spiritual eyesight. Are we blind too? Jesus said, if you were blind, you would not be guilty of sin. But now that you claim you can see, your guilt remains. If you didn't claim to be this big follower of God, if you didn't claim to live this certain life, there might be a little more grace of you didn't know. But you claim to know it all. And you still don't see my place in your life. You still don't recognize it. But that man did. That man, that day, changed forever. Stand up. Get you out of here. I said at the beginning, there's two groups of people I just want to pray for before you leave. I don't know what you're going through. Any of you who are tuning in online, or maybe watching it later, I don't know what you're going through. Maybe you're going through a season that's difficult. Maybe you've been going through seasons that are difficult in all areas of your life. Maybe you've experienced loss or diagnosis, heartache, frustration, a dead end after a dead end after a dead end, and it just seems like nothing is going the way I thought it was going to go. And there's just this thing in you that just says, can you even see me, God? Do you even see me? Even if there's not a why, do you even see me? My prayer for you before we end is that you would leave here, even just from this message happening, knowing that you're seen by God, and by faith believing what he says, that I will never leave you or forsake you. I'll be right there with you. Even if you don't get all the whys, I'm still the creator of the universe who's standing right next with you, and I can still bring something beautiful out of what you're going through. And the other group I want to pray for before we end is anyone here who's struggling to remain on that simple gospel testimony that you have. I don't know all the answers. I just know that I came here one way, and now I'm different, and the only thing in between was him. That's all I know. May you find strength in that simple testimony. No matter what society says, no matter what culture says, no matter what situations and circumstances happen, no one can take your testimony away from you. Give grace to yourself and those around you. So God, I pray for this church, and I thank you for the privilege it is to be a part of it. And God, it can be really frustrating to not know all the answers and to not know the whys. But I pray for all of us here and anyone who watches this online that you would give us just an extra strength in our faith to believe that you see us. Let us leave here with a greater sense of joy and peace that no, my situation hasn't changed, but I don't feel like I'm alone anymore. And would you help us as a church come alongside each and every one of those individuals as a family of faith to say you are not alone, and we will do what we can to come alongside of you. Let that be the testimony of First Free, broken people who help broken people find a perfect God. God, for anyone here who is struggling to hold on to that testimony, I pray that you would just breathe fresh life into their faith. All I know is that I was blind and now I can see. That's all I know. God, sometimes that's stronger than a seminary degree. Would you breathe strength into each and every testimony here who is struggling in our society, struggling in their academics, struggling on their campus, struggling in their workplace, struggling in our culture to hold on to a testimony of faith because it seems too simple to be true. God, would you remind us? This week, we're going to write it down. We're going to get a piece of paper. We're going to put it in a note on our smartphone. This is how I came to the Lord. This is my testimony. And your word says that by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony, not loving our lives even unto death, we overcome the enemy. So God, let us find strength in our testimony that we were one way and now we've been changed. We went from being blind and now we see. I thank you for the honor of being part of this church in your name. Amen. Thank you all.